There were so many warning signs. Welcome everyone to Powered and Protected by Rainbows. I am of course your host, Matt Haslam, and today on the show, we're starting a brand new series called The ExFiles. The ExFiles, showing you a storyline from my past and helping you learn from my mistakes. But before we jump into all that, first off, don't forget to like this video, comment down below your favorite parts of the story, or maybe even your own story so that way others can learn from you, and hit that rainbow subscribe button so you don't miss out on new episodes of Season 3. Anyway, on to story time. Way back at Christmas Day in 2017, I came out to my family as gay. And the following day, I was already on Grindr and all these dating apps trying to find a guy to date. By the beginning of January, I started talking to this really cute twink named Ron, and we really started hitting it off. So about a week into our conversation, I was already asking him out on a first date, and he was saying yes. I thought by giving it a week talking to him first that I was sort of vetting him from being one of the guys who only wanted one thing, because typically if a guy wants only one thing, they'll make it clear by day 2 or 3, I was thinking. But it was a week in and I still liked him. I started learning more about him in that he had a job at a local fast food restaurant near him and that he lived in a town called Myerstown, which was about a 45-minute drive away from where I live. So it was well within my limit of reasonable distance to drive to see someone. Now, I think it's important to note that it doesn't matter what job a guy has, in my opinion, but I wanted to date someone who has a job, so that way I'm not expected to pay for everything when we're dating. But this guy did have a job, so he sort of checkmarked that one box for me. He also liked Taylor Swift music, so he was checkmarking box number 2 on my list of liking similar music choices. It was the 12th of January when I met up with my best friend and used this first date the following weekend with Ron to come out to her. And I was very lucky she accepted me, and the whole day we spent shopping trying to find a perfect outfit for my future dates. But later that weekend, on the 14th of January, was scheduled to be my first date with a guy ever. For our first date, I asked him if he would be willing to meet me halfway between us, and that way we can each drive an equal distance. But there really isn't much to do between Myerstown and where I live, so it made it difficult. Plus, Ron broke the news to me that he doesn't really have a car or a license, which is something I sadly didn't pick up on at the time as a giant red flag. Let's face it, 45 minutes isn't too bad, but if you have to travel 45 minutes to pick him up in order to bring him back to my place for dinner or a party or to spend the night, that's now an hour and a half one day and another hour and a half to take him back home. And that means I'm driving everywhere else we happen to go on dates themselves. But again, I overlooked it because it was my first ever date with a guy. Skip forward to that morning, and I was getting ready for my first date. Ron texted me asking me to send him a new photo of myself in the outfit I was planning on wearing, which was a good sign, I thought, because that way we could each see what the other person looked like, and we both knew the other wasn't some creepy old guy in disguises online. But after that, I didn't hear from him as I started driving to Myerstown. We planned to meet up in the town park in the center of Myerstown, and so I sat in my car waiting for over a half hour for Ron to show up, even though he lived 2 blocks away, which was well within walking distance. But after a half hour, I went to the local fast food place he said he worked at. At the time, I didn't have good internet access on my phone without Wi-Fi, so I thought maybe he messaged me online to tell me he was called to work, which would have been understandable. But when I checked my messages and there weren't any, I asked him where he was, and his response was actually a question, asking me which boy I was again, because he seemed to be talking to so many guys that he'd forgotten which one I was. And it's not a bad thing that you're talking to more than one guy at that stage, but you're not really supposed to ask that question. But I politely reminded him which guy I was again, and he told me he was shopping at a local Walmart a few miles down the road. When I asked him how he got there without a car, there was no response. When I asked him if I could stop by so we can at least say hello to each other, because otherwise I would have driven all this way for nothing, he told me that we could reschedule for another day. And finally, I told him that if I left town, I wouldn't be coming back to date him. But he sent me home anyway. Later that night, my best friend helped me through it and helped me write a song called Mature Town. A week later, there was still no messages from him apologizing. So I went back to his town and filmed a music video for that song I wrote about him. And you can see that music video using the link below.
And tell me this is just the beginning. From a dead water tower town, but I won't hold it against you now. But don't act like and I won't treat you that way. You're afraid of loneliness, but I'm not afraid. Had your chance, stood me up, and you blew it now. I guess I'll find a love in a much more mature town.
But it includes all aspects of the date that never was. From him standing me up, my watching my phone for any new text messages, me walking around town and going to get lunch at a local pizza place like Ron and I planned to do on our date, and much more. But the fun part of making that video was that I spent all day making it, and I actually went to lunch at his fast food restaurant just to see if he was there, which he sadly wasn't, because that would have been so funny to tell him why I was in town. But by January 30th, the music video premiered, and I direct messaged him with a link so he can see it for himself. So hopefully he stops standing guys up on first dates, especially when they're songwriters. As for what I learned from this ex, well, I actually learned a lot of things, which I now use every time I talk to a guy. For example, I now know that some red flags of a guy not being right for me are that he doesn't have a car or a license, which makes any relationship difficult. I learned that I personally don't want to date someone who smokes, and I learned that no matter if he was my first ever date with a guy or not, that doesn't mean I could overlook all the problems just to be with him. Problems are problems, and eventually those problems would have ended us, so maybe it was for the best things never began in the first place. As for him, well, he ended up back with his ex-boyfriend within a month anyway, so I wish him the best. But anyway, that's all for our episode for today. If you have any thoughts or questions on today's topic or any stories of your own, please do leave those in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our network for plenty of great gay content to come in the future, and share this video with others. I'm Matt Haslam, this has been PBR, and have a gay day everyone. Bye for now. Watch Powered by Rainbows Season 3, only on MHP TV.